with a public call to honor often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in history. As with all things EDI in 2020, this too has run into the risk of performative activism risk. Corporations just want to check social capital box without thinking their actions through. Beginning of February, I'm sure all of you guys saw a series of announcements of scholarships, fellowships for minorities, focused hiring strategies, which are all good things, great things actually. But in my opinion, fell flat a little bit because they didn't address the pipeline problem or the leadership void. I've been in the architecture industry close to 20 years now. I'm really happy to see all color around me, but when it comes to leadership, it's still a white and male world. So how do we address this problem? Well, Rosa Cheng, when she started Equity by Design, she started with a simple statement, eat the whale. It was based on Shel Silverstein's poem, Melinda May. Melinda May took the task of eating a monstrous whale. It took her 89 years to finish what she set out to achieve, but she did it bite after bite. Just like that, developing an equitable framework requires planning, strategy, action items achieved over a period of time. You cannot fix the voids overnight. Being an architect itself requires patience, starting with the decision to become an architect and completing licensure. The road is long and windy, but when you're a minority, the road is longer and windier. Our guests tonight, Latrice Harris and Tiara Hughes, are our Melinda Mays. Both have dedicated to increase minority pipeline and filling leadership void within the architecture industry, step by step. In addition to their demanding full-time employment, both of them have dedicated a significant amount of their time and talent towards developing programs that help increase minority participation. Latrice Harris is Vice President at SoCal NOMA, and she heads Project Pipeline. Project Pipeline helps initiate and nurture interest in architecture profession during middle school and high school. She also mentors college students.
Tiara, can you take her outside and play with her with a ball or something? Or go walk her?
What was that? Was it somebody else?
I just muted Kim because I think maybe she didn't realize she was off.
Okay. I thought there was a comment for me, so I slowed down. Okay. Tiara Hughes is the founder of First 500. First 500 is a national initiative primarily focused on highlighting African American women architects and raising awareness of their distinction. There is a lot more to share about our guest, but instead of front-loading you with all that information, I'll make sure to incorporate their multiple talents in our panel discussion and also let them share about themselves. Latrice, do you want to share first? You're on mute.
The wonder of technology. I was going on on my speech. Seriously. Thank you so much for having me, us in general. We are very passionate about some areas of, creating this diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so I'm Latrice Harris, the Vice President of the Southern California chapter of the National Organization of Minority Architects, and the Director of Project Pipeline Programming here in Southern California. And we are excited to lend our voice to this very important topic of education and empowerment in the field of architecture. Our mission at SoCal NOMA is to champion diversity within the design profession by promoting excellence, community engagement, and professional development. We as a national organization seek to advance and support the education and careers of those who have been historically unrepresented in the field of architecture and the various design build professions. Our members include architects, designers, civil, structural engineers, interior designers, urban planners, project designers, and professors. So we strive to promote the agendas of diversity, equity, and inclusion for underrepresented minorities in architecture and all design professions. We also strive to enhance connectivity among the professionals across our Southern California chapters and the nation to promote hiring, just hiring, equitable hiring, licensure, continuing education, and business development. We want to support our members at all levels on their career paths. So we have all kinds of programs and systems set up to support and promote students, young professionals, licensed professionals, and firm owners. We also strive to strengthen the ties between architects and our industry colleagues, developers, contractors, agencies, manufacturers, and vendors of all kinds. But our signature and one of our main goals is to further the pipeline of future architects by promoting a career path for students. One of the ways that we fulfill our mission is through our national initiative called Project Pipeline. It's a program designed to expose youth to the built environment and the architectural profession as a whole. And we support the students at critical milestones and professionals at critical milestones on their road to becoming architects. So, Project Pipeline. We aim to give students exposure to architecture at an early age. We offer that through our summer camps, career days, and workshops that teach architecture and design justice. The Project Pipeline gives students new insight into the built environment in their community while spotlighting architecture and a variety of viable professions associated with it. This pipeline also has programs for high school students, college students, young professionals, and senior professionals. So here in Southern California, we have a huge focus on our signature program, which is our summer camp. It is an architectural summer camp, which inspires youth at an early age, as early as 9 years old, and we introduce them to architecture. And then we provide and support high school students to enhance their understanding of architecture. Once they become highly interested and we see that they're gifted, we bring them into our architectural boot camp. And the next level is our college students. 88 colleges across the US that have our schools of architecture have what we call NOMAS chapters. They are student chapters of the National Organization of Minority Architects, and students can participate in these chapters to foster and learn leadership skills and connect to professionals. We offer these 3 programs through what we call our Project Pipeline. We have 2 other levels, which Tiara will talk about in more detail with her empowerment focus. So here at Southern California, our focus on the first 3 silos with our summer camp for middle school students, which is in its 12th year of introducing youth to the built environment, and our architectural boot camp for high school students, encouraging the highly gifted students to continue their interest in architecture and to focus on it and decide it as a career path. We also have extensive programs for the 8 NOMAS chapters in Southern California, 8 schools of architecture, universities, colleges, and community colleges in Southern California have architecture programs. And we offer opportunities for the students in these schools to get mentored and support. And we have over 200 students that we are supporting on their journey to becoming architects in our 8 NOMAS chapters. So these are the programs that we have and we focus on, and that I am the leader of, setting up the programs, garnering support from the industry, and preparing the workshops and seminars that we present on all 3 of these levels. In this moment of reckoning for racial justice, We have a shared opportunity as the profession of architecture and responsibility to marshal our resources in order to tackle systemic racism in the community and in the field of architecture. These unprecedented times call for all of us to respond in new ways, to change our thinking, to make a pivot, and to adjust our attitude toward the field of architecture and how we educate, promote, and present it to the minority community. We trust that our work at every level of the pipeline will usher in a new generation of architects who can think critically about fighting systems of oppression through design and who will help us create a more equitable profession. We are SoCal NOMA. Thank you.
Thanks, Latrice. Tiara, do you want to share more about yourself?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much, AIA Orange County, for the invitation and for me to speak. I don't believe I've met any of you. I've been looking in the list. So thank you so much for having me here. And, you know, Elatrice touched on a lot of the NOMA programs that we have across the board. So I actually am a part of INOMA, her original home chapter, and we have a lot of the same programs that she mentioned. But I myself, I'm a St. Louis native based here in Chicago now. I'm a senior urban designer with Skidmore, Owings and Merrill, an adjunct professor with IIT, a commissioner for the city of Chicago, and a real estate professional. Additionally, I'm a devoted activist, educator, and advocate for underrepresented communities and voices. I currently serve on the national board for NOMA. And so for those of you who aren't familiar, Jason Pugh is our current president, and he's introduced kind of the triple E as a part of his platform, which is educate, empower, and elevate. And I am co-chairing the Elevate platform. So it's really about uplifting and telling the stories of our members at that national platform. So additionally, my personal experiences in the industry, along with my passion for advocacy, led me to establish First 500, which is a national research initiative focused on African American women architects. And it's really about telling their stories and their contributions to history throughout time. And so this platform has traveled all around the country to give talks and raise awareness, again, about this very distinct group. And in doing so, it serves as an inspirational tool for Black women, to those that are in the field to get licensed, and also those that are studying in our universities to encourage them to continue and to graduate and enter the field. And so, lastly, I'll say I'm a believer in giving back to the community. I currently serve as a co-leader of SOM's ACE mentorship program based here in Chicago. And ACE is national, so I'm sure you guys have one in California as well. And then also as a designer, I'm driven by creating work that emphasizes greater socioeconomic equity and cultural awareness. I believe that ultimately our efforts to positively impact communities of color will expand outward to evolve and impact our academic institutions, our firms, and our industry, and ultimately, by extension, all of our communities. Thank you.
We'll start with an easy question. Architecture itself is a 40+ hour commitment. How do you guys find time to do what you want to do?
I can start. I would just say that, you know, the quick answer is my passion drives me. A lot of my personal experiences that I had as a student, as a youth, looking to enter the field, and as a student studying architecture, there were a lot of holes and a lot of inaccessible, kind of untouchable portions of the industry. And those barriers are ones that I continue to see and that I look to break, and to just really open up the doors for a lot of our underrepresented voices in academia, but then also in the industry, that are looking to grow and flourish and have a voice in our field.
Logistically, Tiara, I was just wondering, how does SOM deal? Do you work 40 hours a week at SOM, or is it 20 hours? How does you balance? How do they deal with you being so involved with the community, and yet they needing your talents to be at the office? How is that balanced? If it's none of my business, tell me so.
Oh no, you're fine. Thank you for the question. It started out me working full time, and then I was appointed to the commission by the mayor in 2019, and we all kind of sat down, some of the partners and myself, and had a roundtable discussion about, okay, what does this really mean time wise? And they said, we support you in this role. We support this. We support the work that you do. And so getting hired, I was already a national board member for NOMA. We have quarterly board meetings in different locations around the country. They knew all of that stuff. They knew about First 500 going in. And so the support was already there when I was onboarded. I kind of said, this is the support I need from you if you would like me to practice in this space. And I know a lot of people aren't there yet with the negotiation skills and really kind of putting their foot down and understanding their value. But it started that way. And then as I've taken on more roles, we've just kind of come back and had a meeting of the minds and made adjustments. So right now to date, half of my time is for my urban design work and half of my time is for all of these other equity initiatives in the industry.
Thank you.
Well, I agree with being driven by passion and the voids that were in my early journey. Also, growing up in Chicago, we actually, being with INOMA, and I went to the University of Illinois at Chicago, there was no shortage of mentors that were African-American or people that looked like me. We had a very, very robust chapter. And several of the founders of our organization were from Chicago. So, I mean, I had like firsthand like information and mentorship. So I didn't have a problem with that. It was the education part, how we were being taught. It was very Eurocentric. I wanted to be Afrocentric. So it was a huge struggle, how to sort of navigate the classical classes that we had that were teaching us classical architecture and wanting to express my cultural roots in that. But it was also getting a late start in architecture. I wasn't introduced to it as a viable option for me until I was a junior in high school. And I had to make a complete pivot because I was going to be an accountant. So then I found architecture in my junior year, introduced to me by my now brother-in-law. And it was kind of late, but by me already being very far along in loving numbers and math, I was able to catch up with the drawing part of it. And I'm also a structural engineer. I don't like to tell a lot of people that because then they want me to start engineering their buildings. But and so I am passionate about making sure that architecture is introduced at an early enough age where people are not behind the 8 ball or children are not behind the 8 ball once they make the choice. It's a wonderful profession. And once you fall in love with it, it's just, you can't let it go. It's like cradle to grave with it. And so I have a love affair with architecture and what it means in the community and how it can propel and promote our communities forward. and grow them, and just the knowledge and information. Architects are the greatest people in the world because we have a hand in every aspect of life. There is nothing you can do in your life that an architect was not a part of, not where you live, where you work, where you go to school, if you need to, hospital situation. We are in everything, in every aspect of life. And so I love that. And that's what I present to the children, and help them fall in love with it. But driven by the passion, as far as time is concerned, I too am in a very similar situation where I, am working most of the time on my SoCal NOMA initiatives. And my company is very supportive of that and allows me to do whatever. I even get an intern every year to help support, who is 100% on the pipeline initiatives with me for our summer camp. So it's an amazing place to be. And I agree with Tira that you do have to be in a place to approach your employees for such, I want to say, I don't even know what you want to call them, but benefits. And I think they get a joy and out of it also because they get to see us in action and promote a wonderful initiative in the community.
That's true. So my next question is a little hard. So right after Black Lives Matter last year, we all started educating ourselves. We all read How to Be an Anti-Racist, Color of Law, and other things. When I was reading Color of Law, there were things that I didn't understand. It was a very slow read for me. And I thought part of the problem was because I'm an immigrant, I don't have the historical knowledge of things that happen. I was talking to a colleague of mine, and he said, even he doesn't have the historical knowledge because it's never taught in schools. What are your thoughts on introducing something like this as an introduction to architecture for high school students so that they come out of high school knowing all the social justice issues and racial inequities that come with the built environment?
Yeah, I'm certainly not opposed to this trickling down into the high school education. Um, I don't know if it would yield more Black students being interested in architecture that early on, because it's a very kind of traumatizing experience too, right? So I do believe that this, to your point, Meghna, of not learning about it in academia is a huge issue, and it's something that absolutely should be addressed at the academia level within our colleges and universities. I went to Drury University in Springfield, Missouri, a very small private university. I was the only Black student in my class, one of the only Blacks in the School of Architecture. And it was a very isolating experience. And to Elatrice's point earlier, the education was extremely Eurocentric. And so I know, and I'm currently kind of battling the battles of how difficult, how many barriers there are in place to transform academia in the curriculum. I know that that's going to take some time. However, I do think there are things that can be done today. For instance, I'm an adjunct professor with IIT teaching a grad level studio, and we've kind of broken away from the traditional kind of here's your prompt, here's a site in the middle of nowhere, design a beautiful museum sort of teaching, to know here's a real community. It's called Inglewood. It's right here in your backyard. It's a neighbor of your school in Chicago. These are real socioeconomic issues that they deal with. How do we address this as design? How do we incorporate the community's input into design? How do you change your perspective of having a community as a client rather than a rich, person that owns 50 hotels, right? Like, how do you adjust your mindset to design for this community, by this community, really incorporate, their perspective into whatever you're presenting to them. Also, additionally, having more Black lecturers is a need. We had a convocation series at our school that brought speakers from all over the planet, to our school, flew them from Japan and different parts of Asia. And I never saw a Black speaker in the 5 years that I was in that university. And so this is a place where I feel like all schools that have the speaker series, I know they all do, or to some capacity, could bring in Black speakers to contribute to that. And then also the critiques, right? We have midterm critiques and we have final critiques where we also seek out outside individuals to come in and interact and touch base with our students. This is also a moment where we can step outside of our comfort zones, outside of our friends in the industry that we know, and really lend the hand to introducing our students to diverse voices, right? So, and then the curriculum, like I said, I think that's going to take some time, but there are books that are out there right now that have Black architects and their contributions to the built environment. This month, I've been previewing a different Black authored book each day on my social medias. And there's several Black architecture authored books that exist right now that can be introduced into the schools as well. So just a more inclusive education overall needs to happen.
I agree. And I don't know, Magna, if you were talking about the educational system of middle school, high school, or college. But, we have to come to terms in this nation about race and justice in general. And that history of exactly what happened and hearing both sides of the story, the little bits and pieces that we do hear about throughout our education, even from primary school on up, is really one-sided. It never tells the story of the actual victims of this racial injustice, how they felt in their lives, and their overcoming or undercoming, and the things that have happened. So we have a lot of work to do just in general of acceptance and the actual history of what happened, and not this version of what we wanted to tell, so that we as a nation looked a certain way to other nations. So I think teaching the youth, exactly what happened, and them, really coming to terms, because like they're a clean slate, they don't know anything. And so we've been teaching them a half truth. So we need to begin with the full truth, and begin at that young age. And these very young children who are the blank slate, who we can pour into them a level of truth, respect, and how we're going to move forward, I think is the best way to go. Of course, we have at all the other levels a deep work to do to uproot and undo these the systemic levels of awareness around race and justice. But getting them at that level and reimagining what the truth would be for them, that is the start of a new systemic level, right? We want systemic to be reversed to being something that's inclusive. So let's do, instead of systemic racism, systemic inclusion.
I love that idea, systemic inclusion.
And yes, I think more can be done.
So following up on the same question, after Black Lives Matter, we're all going through trainings, and some of us call it sensitivity training, some of us call it diversity training.
Mm-hmm.
And I even heard kindness training the other day, which was very intriguing. But what do you think about this? Do you think it will achieve the purpose of making all of us think differently, or It's just again another checkbox where we can say, end of the year, we finished this training. So now we assume we are fully ready for this.
For me, again, I believe it's just like a thing that companies are doing to check the box. They think they're doing something really great. But if you have, and you're checking this box off, and we all went to training, and it was one of the regular trainings that we have is the talking heads. People are talking to you and they're telling you, what's good and bad, and there's no real dialogue between the people in the training. Where it's one thing for an all white male, older male firm to go to training. It's like 10 of 20 of them in there, and they're all having this training, and then they begin talking about, if there is a part that people get to talk and share, you don't have any other perspectives in the room. So what is the point of that training? So it's not diversity or equity training unless there's some diversity within the room to hear the different perspectives. I mean, people have been going to these training sensitivity when it came to women and the workplace and that whole Me Too movement. If there were no women in the room telling the men how they felt, what was the point of the training? So until there's diversity in the room and people are hearing true life stories of how they are feeling, I don't think that these, what do we call, Band-Aid trainings are going to do anything.
I love that term, Band-Aid trainings. And I think to Ella Teresa's point about really having the exposure in the room of what these people's experiences are is really powerful. Following George Floyd's murder and SOM, like many firms, we had the knee-jerk response of putting out the statement, right? We support our Black colleagues, we support NOMA. And I think it was the entire industry did it. So I'm not patting SOM on the back or degrading them for doing that. But we also had other kind of moments within the firm following that. We had a kind of a global call where a lot of our Black employees kind of led this discussion around what the firm planned to do moving forward with partners and our leadership as well. And then we also had our individual offices had their own talks as well. And this is where it got real. This is where people got to hear real stories from colleagues, about how afraid we are, walking on the street. We're educated, we're in the same office as you, but we have to worry about losing our lives, right? When we walk past a police officer. And we've had loved ones extremely close to us. I mean, we're talking about people's brothers who have died at the hands of police officers. And these are people that you work right next to. And so that portion, which again, to Ella Teresa's point, is something that you can't fake the funk with that, right? You can't just have a bunch of monocratic voices in the room and not have that kind of organic conversation and experiential learning, because that's really what it was for our colleagues. But to your question, Meghna, I think that there needs to be a shift in the industry from equality, the mindset of equality, to equity. Right now, I think we're really all about equality, equality, equality. Everyone gets the same toolkit. Everyone gets the same opportunity, and that's really not where we are as an industry. I think that mind frame and that way of thinking has failed us because not everyone starts in the same place. Your Black colleagues come in with emotional trauma, right? We've dealt with redlining, we've dealt with policing, we continue to deal with environmental exploitation, pay inequities, and there's many, many, many more factors, but we are not starting at the same place as our white counterparts within these firms and within the industry. And so if we shift our mindset to equity, we can meet people where they are and equip them with resources accordingly, right? So it really does kind of level the playing field and equal out the pot for how we can move forward. And then also, the last thing I'll say to that point is checking the boxes of the training is not enough. Megan, it absolutely is not enough. I think that we also need to, create equitable pathways to leadership for our Black colleagues, right? And actually, I want to say all people of color colleagues, right? Brown as well, Black and brown colleagues. So we have a lot of work to do, and the training is definitely not enough, but it's a start.
Yeah. Building on the same discussion, my next question is on allyship. So last year I was looking for a guest to come to my EDI meetings and sort of educate us on design justice. And somebody told me the Black people are already overburdened by this. Don't make them educate everybody. So after that, our committee sat down and we are kind of partnering up and taking responsibility in educating ourselves also and leading. Jim is leading an affordable housing discussion next month, and Lynn is leading a discussion in June. So we are sort of doing that, but then we don't know if it's the right thing to do. What are your thoughts on that? Where should allyship stop, and what really is allyship definition?
Well, it means so many things to so many people, but because we in SoCal NOMA, we have put out our DEI challenge to the architecture profession as diversity, equity, and inclusion in the profession, and we have what we're calling allies. And so we have 20 firms or companies who have signed on to our DEI challenge. And so we have these 20 allies. And for us, what the allies are saying is we are with you. And so what this challenge does is it put out 10 action items for them to take. And so what we look at in this group of 20 firms and individuals and companies, they have said, and we are in alignment with you. We are going to take these actions and we are going to be a part of the change that you are initiating. And so that's how we are defining allies in SoCal NOMA and soon in National NOMA as we are adopting a national DEI challenge. We are reaching out. We have put out our hand and we have asked people to join us. So that would be what we define as an ally. We are joining you on this initiative to make the profession more equitable, inclusive, and diverse. And so they're taking these actions. And so that's how we define ally. The other thing that as we were having these group meetings about our challenge and people really asking what they can do. I think what you guys are doing is great, right? You're reaching out and doing your own research. But I would agree that you're going to need BIPOC, Black, or otherwise minority friend. Until you can never stand in our shoes, but until you become intimately aware of the effects of this systemic racism, you cannot make effective change in any area of architecture or your life. So I would say befriend an African American or BIPOC person, and it could be on a professional level. You don't have to, go out for drinks or or be like your kids playing in the park or whatever. But until you have that relationship and you really begin to see the effects of all that has been going on when it comes to this racial injustice on all the levels, healthcare, police brutality, architecture, whatever, on all the levels, and just the effect. I mean, really like one-on-one, see into their eyes and feel their heart. It's going to be difficult to really understand how you can be an ally.
Yeah, I agree. Allyship is an all around must. If I'm speaking to NOMA as well, I can speak from a national standpoint here. NOMA has grown tremendously in the past 5 years, like over double its membership. Sorry. But also having majority firms take on like our NOMA Foundation Fellowship recipients, right? The people who receive that honor that get to travel around the country to these different firms. We've had majority firms sign on and really make this a prestigious program. Also having firms like SOM give as the official student design competition sponsor for our annual conference, 3 years running and counting, right? We're still holding that spot. It helps push the mission forward. And so to Elatrice's point, allies are a must and they're welcome. I think everyone is at different points. So I'm not speaking uniformly for everyone when I say that we're all in a place of accepting allies and like being best friends with people who aren't Black. I can't speak for everyone and say that, but overall, it is a must and it is welcome. The other thing I would say is, switching gears to First 500, the audiences that I've spoken in front of around the country have been mostly that of majority. And it's purposeful and it's intentful. And I do this because representation and our numbers matter. And I think we all know that already. Black women in the field that are practicing already know how important our contribution is to the built environment, but it is equally important for others to be informed of that as well. So allies is important on the First 500 front and all the talks that we do and advocacy work also. And then lastly, I'll kind of bring it down to an individual level now in the field. It's crucial for personal growth too. As a person that's a part of a 1% firm like SOM, allyship comes in a form of mentorship. It comes in the form of fostering my talents and growth, garnishing support for all of the work that I do in the industry. And then also leading that into client connections and developing my soft skills and, the things that you really cannot learn in textbooks, right? I think a lot of the allied support brings those resources to us as well.
Derek has a question. I'm going to ask you to unmute and ask the question, Derek.
Sure. So really, this question is pertaining to diversifying, I think, the whole industry and the interconnectedness to developers, to architects, engineers, and the construction community. What are your thoughts on the interconnectedness to all these industries as it relates to diversifying, as a whole?
Yeah, I think that the industry is feeling a lot of pressures from the powers that be, and the powers meaning our clients, our communities. The students are looking for more high impact work. Firms are now looking into how to increase their numbers. I think it is all interconnected, and it is all moving in the right direction right now. I mean, we still have a ton of work to do, but the interconnectedness is there. It's delicate. It's fine. Firms respond to clients, and I've definitely have been seeing a lot of the developers, also the city clients too, are like, tell us your diversity numbers, tell us who we're going to be working with on a day-to-day. Tell us who's going to be interacting with this community, this Black community, right? And it's really forcing firms to the fire, like, put your money where your mouth is. And I'm at the point right now where there's not really an excuse anymore if I don't know any Black people, because as Elatrice eloquently explained, NOMA is the resource. NOMA is the plug for Black architects and Black practitioners in the field, those working to licensure as well. So it is all interconnected, and I think it is all kind of pushing us in the right direction. But George Floyd's murder was, I think, something that sped us up a little bit, but it's up to all of us to continue putting in all of the work and effort to continue and keep our foot on the gas.
Looks like no one else.
Yeah,
has
I
any-
agree that,
Go ahead.
no, I don't have to speak to that if we want to go to another question, because I do want to give everybody a chance to speak.
No,
Um,
we don't have other questions. You can respond to his question.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, I would just like to say that I think the industry as a whole is going to have to come together and decide how they're going to, use this opportunity to diversify every aspect of a project, which would be all of the players that you mentioned, and how they all play into making these projects more equitable. We had programs that were in place across the nation right after the civil rights movement, where projects, especially government or city projects, were forced to have minority participation. A lot of those programs have disappeared. And so people went back to practice as usual. I would hope that we don't have to have, an official federal mandate again, and that people will realize that these projects require the different voices that comes from a diverse project team. You cannot go plow into these communities and just boldly put up anything, any kind of way, without engaging them. And they will want to see the people that are working in their neighborhood and putting up these projects. They want to see some people that looks like them. They want to hear from people that are committed to their community growth. And so diversifying the projects at every level and every modality that's dealing with a project is only going to benefit the project, the community, us as a nation in general. So we should be moving in that direction. Yes, we should.
I have a quick question, if that's okay.
Sure. Go ahead, Lynn.
So is NOMA, is it, I know it's for minority architects, but is it people of color in general, or is it specifically just Black architecture? Or both?
It's both. It's definitely, I think majority of our membership is Black, but we definitely have it. The M is minority. So all voices of color are welcome.
That's kind of what I thought when I looked at your website and was, viewing that. But because I think, obviously with Black Lives Matter, that's become a big subject. Sorry.
To found themselves in a place where this was necessary, that they needed to create a place where they can get what they needed to.
Elatrice, I think you're breaking up.
I think she dropped off the call also.
I'm back. So far from that. But yes, it is open and available to any and everyone who really just wants to work on their career, making the profession more inclusive, because it's this, you know, we have this sort of similar situation with women in architecture. I mean, architecture is a white male dominated profession.
Mm-hmm.
So women have to, you know, get in there also, and we're doing all we can to, you know, raise their voice. So it's really everybody.
So anyone that's considered a minority in the industry.
Yeah, but you don't have to be a minority to join.
No, I get it.
Oh,
but
yes.
that's who you're helping. You know, we want to promote and highlight and try to enhance careers and mentor and all this.
Yes, it's every
Okay.
and any. Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Great question.
And then the other question I had is, well, I have two, if that's okay, because I thought it was great information from both of you. But you talked about actionable items in terms of like if a firm would like to be participatory in the DEI challenge. Can you give me an example of what's an actionable item part of that challenge?
Yes, we have 10 items. If you want to specifically know where they are, you can go to our website, SoCalNoma.org, but I will go over a few of them. Tiara talked about SOM and other firms who put out that statement. So across the board, we all in architecture
Elatrice, we are losing you.
That was getting good.
Then I just put the link to SoCal Noma's DEI challenge.
Okay, I'll look at it.
I don't think she knows
that we're going to make a statement. Some people said some things they would do, you know, what was going on, and the world to know that they denounced the actions of. Oh.
Okay.
Hello?
Hey.
Yeah, I have it pulled up here. I think it's pretty straightforward, and we've actually looked at this intimately too, as a firm to potentially sign on. SOM, I know, I don't think we signed on with our California office, just because we were looking for more of a global, maybe national NOMA as a direction to sign on to, since we're a global firm. So, but the actions here: partner and collaborate on projects with architecture firms that are Black owned or owned by underrepresented people of color. 2 is create project teams that include Black owned or underrepresented persons of color in prime partner or sub-consultant roles. 3 is provide paid internships for architecture students to historically Black design schools, which is HBCUs, or for Black and underrepresented people of color in local architecture programs in Southern California. 4 is increase recruitment of Black and underrepresented people of color for design staff, leadership, and the total number of professionals at the firm. 5 is develop a mentorship program within the firm to participate in an outside mentoring program to connect and support Black and underrepresented people of color in their career development within the profession. And these all have different points associated with them. That one, number 5, is a big one. 6 is increase career advancement of Black and underrepresented people of color to management and leadership positions, which, Meghana, you asked a great question about that, and that we are not doing enough right now. We need pipelines to get people of color in leadership. Number 7, include Black and underrepresented people of color in company-wide marketing materials, social media, and publications to increase representation and recognition of employee contributions to projects and to the firm. Number 8 is conduct diversity training to all staff at the firm. And I think the points is low on that one too, because to our points earlier, you know, it's a start, right? Like it's not the end all be all to bring in and do EDI or diverse training. Number 9 is provide pro bono design services and hands-on contributions to underserved communities, Black and underrepresented people of color, by participating with local grassroots organizations on at least one project per year. And then number 10, which is the big one, is join SoCal NOMA as an annual chapter partner to support all of the chapter initiatives, including Project Pipeline, the summer camp and the high school boot camp, local college NOMA chapters, young professionals, licensure programs, and senior practitioners continuing education services. So, all around the board, I think ways of firms can improve their engagement. Look, even if you don't have any Black people in your firm, I think this is still a great place to start, and to foster relationships with people of color so that you can change those demographics.
Right. I think for some, and I don't know if this is 100% accurate.
Uh-oh, Lynn, did you cut out?
Lynn, I think you froze. What's with the technology today? First we lost Latrice and now we lost Lynn.
I think I'm back. I'm not sure. Can you hear me now?
You're back. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
It's better
yes,
now.
thank you, Tierra, for going over that. But in general, we really just wanted the firms to take some action, not just put out the statements. We were reading all the statements and they just sounded amazing, but it sounded like a sort of a stopping point. Like we made our statement, let's go back to normal. And so we really wanted to present to them something that would be like, okay, we'll take some action. And a lot of them have, and they were committed to doing that. So we're excited about, like I said, the 20 firms that joined in and that are participating. We have done our first round of Ally information, and we will be having our summary on how diverse these firms are, just how far they have to go. We are going to be publishing our findings of these 20 firms, and they will have a score. Some of them will score high on being diverse, and others will score low. But this is not like a hand bashing situation. They're doing this so they can see exactly where they are, so they can make the necessary changes to do better, to be a part of the solution of changing architecture to be grander and grander.
Yeah, and this is, NOMA National definitely has our eye on these efforts and what SoCal NOMA is doing, because again, it is really adding accountability to a lot of those statements that we saw last year, right? And so pending the success of this chapter's endeavors, which I foresee it being very successful, we would look at potentially launching something like this at the national scale. And especially for the global firms like the SOMs and Genslers and HOKs of the world.
Thank you. It's 6:01. I think we're ready to call it an evening, unless somebody has a question and you want to go off mute. And sure, go off mute and ask.
Just have one last question. What is NOMA's position on getting your members involved in growing more in sustainable design? And are you open to suggestions?
Yeah, I think, and I'm speaking very vaguely here. Yes, to answer your second question, we are definitely open to suggestions. And I think that this is more of a chapter by chapter basis for the sustainability approach. It is very important to us. I think nationally, there's been a lot of focus on sort of the task at hand right now, which is transforming the industry to be more equitable. But that does bleed into spaces of sustainability as well, especially in communities of color. So yes, Derek, we're open to suggestions and welcome them.
Well,
Yeah,
if I may,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, if I may, so I'm a developer, and I recently joined the North America Passive House Network board, and we are looking at these issues of social equity, diversifying industry, and even really using this as an opportunity to even give minority architects, et cetera, an advantage, as it relates to having an additional skill set. But we would love to talk to you all maybe a little bit more in depth about some of our ideas and some of the initiatives that we're currently working on.
Great. No, we would love to hear more about that. And I agree with Tiara. There are a couple of ways you can go about this with our organization. Well, first, if you join, you really have a shoe in. So join one of the chapters. I want to encourage you to do that. But then working at the local level, choosing an area, working with them locally, and then expanding out. We do have our national conference every year where we invite people to industry, people to come and share. So that's an opportunity to reach a grander group. If your seminar is selected to be a part of the slate of seminars that we offer our members every year, I would encourage you to do that. This is diversifying our communities and ourselves and our lives is our main mission, along with the profession. So we would encourage it for sure.
I added my contacts in the chat. So my NOMA email and also my Instagram is probably the quickest way to get me, but use both if you can.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. SoCalNOMA.org. Just find me there.
Okay, 6:05, and that was a great evening. Thank you, Tiara and Latrice. If anybody has any follow-up questions, I'll send out an email and introduce you to the person who asked the question, and we can take it from there. Hopefully it was informative and helpful to everybody.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for having me.
Yes, me too.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you. That's funny.